Hi, everyone. My name is Jidon Olobayo. I am the founder of Style Me Africa, and I am your host today. I would like to introduce, I would like the panel attendees to please introduce themselves one after the other. Go ahead, guys.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Wale Adetula, founder of Helium Media and also The Naked Combos.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Pepper, and I am the founder of the Assembly Hub, and it's great to be here.
Hi, Pepper.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Jane Ohubu. I'm General Manager at Zaron Cosmetics.
Hello, Mary Jane.
Hi.
Do we have everyone here? I believe these are the speakers that we have right now. So I guess we might as well just start. Anyone else that joins us can introduce themselves afterwards. So we'll start off with the creative industry. What do you think? Can you tell us a bit about your experience, your journey, what it took for you to be where you are today? Mary Jane, you can go ahead.
So, for me, I would say I'm a natural creative, and so it comes to me naturally. And how I was able to grow that was I was very much interested in exploring and just gaining more knowledge around my field. I would practice unendingly. I would just go on for the search of what's new, what's next, what's more, what's happening. This just sort of helped me with, first of all, gaining knowledge, and then, sorry about that. First of all, oh, sorry, I didn't realize my video was off. So this sort of helped me with, building myself and growing that expertise in my field, which is what I needed to sort of project myself better, right? I would more or less not shy away from challenges. I would take on the, very challenging and difficult situations where you typically would shy from, if you were a greenhorn or a novice in the industry. These were things that just sort of helped shape me into a better person, a better creative. And I think one thing that really would stand out for me was practice. So I was practicing, back to back over time. And with this practice, it just sort of became second nature, I would take on anything, really take on anything at any point in time without batting an eyelid. And I feel like, with all of these things, I was able to grow myself into who I am today. And yeah, that just sort of helped me with where I am in the industry.
Oh, cool. Wale, can you give us a little insight as well into how your journey has been started?
Yeah, thanks, Edu. I think for me, it's, again, I'm one of those people that it was more or less, I was born a creative, like from every time I could remember when I was young. I used to paint, I used to draw, every single thing that you'd expect from a, young creative. And it kind of followed me all through from primary to high school and then even to uni. I guess after that was when I really started thinking, okay, how do I go to the next level? And then started picking up different interests. Even before I got into uni, I started my first business. It was web development at that point in time. I was really crazy about coding and also just design, right? So it was designing websites. Then from there, moved to animation, just doing different kinds of animation and also then graphic design. So I continued in that regard as well. And it was, I think, Mary Jane mentioned about practice, right? So when you're a creative and you just keep going at things, so you have a lot of interests that come at you, but then you notice that you just get drawn to it. So I would go hours, just going on Photoshop, just working on different kind of tutorials, learning new stuff and whatnot back then. And from there, I then transitioned into the corporate world, got my first job as a designer with an agency. And I guess it was at that point that I really started seeing the business side of things, and then the entrepreneur in me kind of developed. So combining the entrepreneur side of me with the creative side was then what really helped me blossom into, this more, I guess, rounded type of professional within the industry now. And since then, it's just been, growing from one role to the other. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Joanna, can you give us some insights as well?
Yes, of course. Thank you. So I guess for me, similar to the previous speakers, I guess I started in fashion, and I always loved fashion. I always loved playing dress up, playing with clothes, going into my mother's wardrobe. That was it for me. And it got to a point where I would be walking down the street and people would just stop me and say, "Are you a stylist? Are you a designer?" And I never knew what these things were. So this is me as a teenager. And this was happening regularly. People just, taking a liking to my sense of style. And eventually I looked into, what a stylist was, did some research, and I realized that actually this is actually what I want to do. I don't have an interest per se in design. I don't really like needles and things like this. But when it comes to putting together an image or putting together a visual story, those were the things that I really was drawn to. And so when I found out what it took to be a stylist, I think I wrote to like every magazine you can think of, Vogue included, trying to see if I could get my foot in the door. And that wasn't really going successfully for me. So I then decided to find photographers to collaborate with. And so what that did for me was it helped me build my network, and it helped me build a community of like-minded creatives who were very much interested in, creating a portfolio of work. And so I was able to use that portfolio and use that to pitch myself to magazines, designers, PR agencies, even to the point where I would literally, like what Marianne said, every opportunity that came, I took it so that I could build my portfolio and build my track record. And then what that helped me do, it helped me my network, but it helped me to decide the kind of projects I wanted to work on. And so when you're starting out, it's good to have a feel for different types of jobs and creative briefs, and then you kind of understand, what is my strength in this particular field. So I guess one thing led to the other, and then an opportunity came for me to become the fashion editor of Fab magazine, and this was way back in 2000 and let me not say the wrong date, but anyway, that led to me going into Fab magazine. And from then on, I was the fashion editor for TW magazine. And then I was asked to come in and head up Spice TV. So it has been probably like a 15-year trajectory of, starting out as a stylist, as an assistant, interning in different organizations or interning in companies from the UK, and then kind of making my way into the Nigerian fashion industry because I felt like I had a lot to offer at the time. And then, and here we are today. So I'm trying to kind of condense like 15 years of work, but yeah.
Yes, that's cool. Akintunde, can you also give us a little insights into how you started your journey in the creative world?
Okay. Interestingly enough, I started when Nigeria was going through or coming into the digital age. So I was fascinated with digital media, and I guess that was it. I was on the internet every day, getting certification courses, Google, and I started my business. Our first client was Rekit Benkisad. Digital was new, so they didn't know how exactly to test us out, but they gave us like everything to try. So we took down our office website and we're actually hosting different apps and little things from Global Brief. And I guess once we got it, it took 8 months anyway of going to the office every day, not getting paid, just trying to prove ourselves that, we're the agency, we can do it, we can work through it. And I guess the rest is history. Yeah.
That's cool.
Now we are a media group that employs 65 people, TV station, advertising, tech business, etc. And content also.
That's really cool. So we all know that everyone's saying they were born into it or they fell into it and whatnot, into being a creative. I would like to ask, what do you think an individual, apart from like falling into it, what do you think an individual needs to actually succeed in the creative industry? The traits, the characteristics, what is it that is needed to be successful in the creative industry as an individual?
I think you need a lot of passion. You'll get many no's. Creativity is very subjective. So you'll need to prove yourself beyond a reasonable doubt that you know what you need to do to get through it. It was very difficult in the beginning. I mean, you just have to make sure you understand what global trends are. You have to be up to date. And you really need to have a lot of tenacity, I would say.
Mary Jane, can you give us a little bit of insights? Oh, she's not here. Oh, I apologize for that. I think she must have been disconnected. Joanna, you can go ahead and let us know.
Yeah, definitely agree with Tunde on that one. But there's a quote that I really like, and it says, talent exists, but opportunity doesn't. And so I think as a young creative, you really need to be able to develop, people skills, networking and being able to sell yourself and pitch yourself, because it's a very competitive industry. And people aren't just going to find you by virtue of, you having an Instagram page, even though a lot of creatives have been discovered through social media. But you need to be proactive and look for the opportunities that you want for yourself and, that you want to build as a career. And you need to have grit. And just like Tony said, passion is very important. It's going to get you through the no's. It's going to get you through the rejection. It's going to get you through people, rejecting your work or rejecting what you have to offer. But having that self-belief and maintaining your passion will definitely get you through. So yeah, that's what I would contribute.
Wale?
Yeah, I think just to add, I think passion is really important as well. But for me, one of the things I've noticed is with a lot of creatives, one of the things we do struggle with is to merge that creative side with the commercial side of, going into any corporate or business space, right? So a lot of creatives are very kind of poetic in terms of the way they think and, romanticize things and all of that. But at the end of the day, look, as a creative, you're going to be working within a business, right? And every business has business objectives and goals, right? And it's very important for you to understand those objectives and those goals, being able to speak the commercial language, right, when it comes to working with people. And that is something that I see a lot of creative people missing out on. So if you can successfully, it is very difficult, right? And I must say, this is one of the hardest things I've seen, being able to balance that, creative mindset with that business mindset, right? But if you can successfully do that, or at least broaden your perspective, your knowledge, so you're not absolutely oblivious of what it is, so imagine going into an organization, you're recommending a campaign and you want to spend all the money in the world, and this is just an SME, they can't even afford it, right? So you need to be able to balance both sides of the coin so that you are a more rounded kind of professional and you can give both the creative perspective that matches the business objectives as well.
Okay, one of our attendees is asking, Chinanza Dimijizi asked, do I have to be a born creative to express creativity? Is it possible to grow up and delve into something new and actually show creativity at its very best? What do you think?
I think that's a tricky question. A lot of people always say that, look, you're either born creative or not. I think we're getting to this point in time where that is no longer relevant. I think as much as possible, yes, there are those of us that have been fortunate to be born into it, right? However, I think that, you know, with persistence, with, you know, that passion and drive, you can learn a lot of things nowadays. Yes, maybe you won't be the greatest painter or the greatest artist in the world, but you can get to the level of competence that you will be able to compete in that industry. I mean, a lot of creatives, we say these things, you know, for instance, I say people say, you know, you can't measure creativity, or, you know, you can't improve on effectiveness of creativity, but that is all in the past, right? We should be able to codify, you know, a lot of things that we do as creatives. So I'd say if you have interest and you have the passion, go for it, right? Invest time into it, and, you know, you will get better at it. You will get good enough at it.
Now we know that the world is going through, we're just recovering from a pandemic. How would you advise a creative to move forward now that the world is settling in? You can go ahead and answer this, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think I work with a lot of creatives, and I saw firsthand how, you know, work completely stopped. And a lot of creatives are freelancers. So when you don't have events and you don't have, you know, projects that typically, you know, are done in the public, whether it's weddings as a makeup artist, whether it's a videographer who's going to be filming that event, it was very, very difficult for a lot of people. But I think finding innovative ways of, you know, either leveraging technology or leveraging digital space was something that I saw a lot of people doing to kind of like tide the season, as it were. People were doing virtual consultations, whether it was, you know, for example, for instance, was having virtual sessions with my hairstylist, for example. I couldn't go in, but I had to do stuff at home by myself. And, you know, we were doing lots of Zoom meetings. So I think it's just that kind of adaptability and flexibility to find other ways of channeling your work. And also it was a great time to study as well. I mean, you know, as a creative, you're constantly working, you're constantly on the move. So if you were able to find time to, you know, learn one or two things, get a certificate through this 3 or 4 months of the lockdown, and then you're coming out and you're now in a better place to position yourself, increase your prices, or, you know, maybe try other new projects that you might want to collaborate on. I think, you know, that was one of the things that I saw happen quite often. Yeah, so I guess it's all about, you know, adaptability and flexibility, and leveraging technology in whichever way that you can, whether it's to, you know, develop a new skill or to communicate your craft in a different way.
Okay, that sounds good. Mary Jane, what would you say is next for the creative industry now that things are opening up?
See that now that we are in the, let's say, post-COVID era, even though we still have COVID-19 very much, but most things are going digital now. So technology, digitalization, that is a big deal with this current era. So how do creatives take advantage of this? I would say, I mean, there's so much you can do in the creative space online. Like Pepper had said earlier, you have trainings that are going on, consultations are going on online. And outside of that, you know, fairs, exhibitions, you can have art exhibitions and the likes online as well. Now, there's also different ways you can take advantage of opportunities out there. For instance, you can have collaborations, you can have partnerships, strategic partnerships with other creatives or with brands. You know, there are different ways that you can explore expressing your creativity, regardless of the damage COVID-19 has done to our creative industry. I mean, you find that there's some brands that are even opening up and allowing creatives to take advantage of opportunities where you don't have to exactly pay outright for a lot of things you can do now. You know, you can explore opportunities like that. And if you're, say, a broadcaster, for instance, you don't have to spend a lot, or if you're a producer, you don't have to spend so much on maybe renting a studio as you would have before. You have to find creative ways to go about things now. Now, content can be a bit softer and more acceptable in its softer form. So you can go around doing all that you have to do, you know, in a more creative and acceptable way, I would say. So the opportunities out there for creatives to explore.
I would like to introduce Kela Oniwo. Kela is one of our speakers. Kela, can you introduce yourself to us, please? Good morning. Kela, I believe you're muted. Kela? Okay, I think we might be having some technical difficulties, Kela. So I'm just going to go ahead and, okay. Hi, Kela. Hi. Okay, please introduce yourself so that our attendees can.
My name is Kayla.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Okay.
hear you. Yeah, my name
Yeah, I was saying if you could please introduce yourself.
I should what?
Please introduce yourself briefly so our attendees can know who you are.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla Oniwo. I am a media personality and radio host. I host the Road Show on Cool FM, and I do so many other things: media personality, MC, blogger, content creator, and all that. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome, welcome. I'm just going to go ahead and throw a question to you. One of our attendees, Temitope Abari, asked, what is the biggest opposing force that one can encounter on a creative journey? So again, what is the biggest opposing force a creative can encounter on their journey?
I wouldn't say the biggest off the top of my head, but one of the things that a lot of creatives, you know, the opposing things that we face might be, and also competition. You know, as a creative, you're in a space where it's highly competitive and you think that you're not doing enough because the moment you have gone through your creative process and you're ready to release, the next thing you see somebody who's done something you think is better than yours. So that's what I mean by competition. But if you are what's the word now? If you're confident with what you do and believe that, you know, I've done my own work and I put my work out there, you know, you would get results regardless. And rejection also is what a lot of creatives also face. You know, you have this brilliant idea, and then you pitch it to someone and they think, oh, this isn't good enough. And then you later find out that they've used somebody else that probably didn't even do as much as you've done. Do you know what I mean? So the bottom line of this is you would face all of these things. These are just two. There's so many things. I wouldn't say I know the biggest, because there are many things that we face as creatives. But these two I know for sure. You know, bringing your ideas to light and being rejected for it, or just, you know, doing your work and you know, and you feel like you're not good enough. But the advice I would give to anyone who's listening now is you have to be confident in your craft. You have to be confident in what you're doing. You have to have people who are around you that you can, you know, that you trust. Trust is the key word here, to share your ideas and say, what do you think about this thing I'm doing? Is it, you know, what do you think? And you can get some advice. It can tell you, oh, you can tweak this a little bit, or you can go this route, or you can go train yourself. And I hope I was able to answer the question.
Yes.
Sorry, my part just.
I continue. Could you give us a little bit more insight into what you think is also one of the biggest challenges for creatives?
One of the biggest challenges I think would be, you know, getting regular work. Every creative is always stuck with, like Kayla was saying, you know, you're going after a client and you put your all into a pitch and you present it and you're well grounded, and then you end up not getting it, and then you hear they're using somebody else that doesn't have as much experience or competency in terms of to handle the work as the way it should be done. I think that is one of the biggest challenges, and you have to constantly reinvent yourself, constantly do things to set you apart from other people to a point where the client actually comes looking for you. So for every creative, that is always the biggest one, where people actually look for you because of the kind of work you've done, and it stands out. So it takes a while to come out of the clutter.
So I'd like to ask, so how do you stand out as a creative? What do you do? What can you do to stand out from the competition?
So it is how seriously you take every client or every work you've ever done. You make sure you do it to the best of your ability. Even if the client paid a certain amount, you make sure that you go way beyond what their expectations are, making sure you leave a good aura in the client's mind. And then word of mouth actually does work. When if the client asks, oh, who did this? And you'll be like, oh, they were fantastic to work with. They weren't stressful. They even did over and beyond. And then, you start getting phone calls, and referrals are always the strongest. So that's how you make sure you're as professional as possible. You make sure that you do the work diligently, and always make sure you overextend what is expected of you. So that's how you stand out.
Wale, what qualities do you think you exhibit that has helped you to get to where you are today?
I think it's key to be open-minded, right? As a creative, you don't want to, one of the worst things that you could do to yourself is to be stuck in a rut or stuck wherever it is that you are, because even as a creative, you get to those moments where you just have a mental block, nothing new is happening in your mind. So be very open-minded, go outside of your box as much as possible. It's one thing to say, oh, you know what, I only listen to this kind of music, so I'm only going to listen to this kind of music. As a creative, you shouldn't do that, right? Because you never know where that inspiration is going to come from. Even if you don't listen to this other genre of music, go there and see what's going on there. Read as broadly as possible. That is one thing I always tell people, get access to information, watch movies from different, times and whatever. Try to be very open-minded and explore, right? I think that is one major quality that I would advise any creative to definitely invest in. Yeah.
Joanna, one of our attendees, Agogo, is asking, how do you collaborate your work time in between your fashion and professional careers? So I would say, to rephrase it for them, how do you manage your time between fashion and your professional career?
I don't think the two are separate. I'm a fashion professional. So I work in the industry as a professional. Sometimes I wear different hats, from consulting on projects to working on wardrobe and costume. Like I'm talking to you right now and I'm currently on a set. And I had to be here, so I had to like clean the back a bit and join this. So it's not separate basically, but I use a lot of time management tools, and I try to have a rule where I allow myself to say no, because sometimes we want to say yes to everything and you experience burnout and you experience fatigue and you can't deliver. So I think being able to say no to things can really help you manage your time as a professional and also in your other areas of your life. But I wouldn't separate the two. I work in the fashion industry as a professional, if that helps.
I will throw this to everyone. As creatives, what do you believe the Nigerian government can do to harness our industry to help other creatives do better and put us on the center of the map so that the world is seeing us and seeing what we can do? What do you think the government can do to help us?
Well, I would say, first of all, let's blow our trumpets. We have so much going on here that the world doesn't know. The world just sees the negative sides of things coming from Nigeria. We have so much amazing work, amazing things going on in the creative space. Let's start by blowing that trumpet. Let the world see what's going on here. Let's see what's going on in our movie, music. I mean, those industries are doing considerably okay now, but we need to do more to project it to the world. what's happening with tourism, you know? We need to do so much to project ourselves. That's one thing I would say. And another thing would be security. I feel like if the government did something about that, then we would see an increase in interest. You know, we would have more people coming to explore and see what's going on here, how can they invest. You know, there's all of that possibilities, but there are basic things that need to be put in place first for the creative space to explode. So the potential is there, but the government needs to put in a lot more so that there's much more from that space.
Kayla, I see you were smiling. Do you have some insights into this as well?
Yes, I mean, when she started talking, I was like, this is definitely number one. You know, we don't celebrate our creatives enough, and it's important that we do. You know, we only celebrate our creatives when we've made it, you know, when we've gotten international recognition, and when, in fact, we go celebrate Nigerians living in the diaspora because we see that they're doing well. Like Mary Jane said, I don't know much about the structure in terms of how, if there's any board that's from the government arm that's specifically catered to putting us out there and making us look good. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I think that just generally investing in the creative space is so important. A lot of us know how many times we've approached the government to say, okay, we want you to partner with us on this, and then it's such a long and it's almost like a task that you cannot achieve. You have to go through this person and that person. I want it to be seamless. I want it to be easy. And I know that I'm saying these things and it looks like it's almost impossible, but it is, just giving us that opportunity to be able to say, okay, we have this project, we have this body or this structure that we can go to, and they say, okay, we're going to invest in it and project us. And just to add to Mary as well, security, making this place, easy for us to come to. Somebody was telling me 2 days ago about the South African creative space. So I'm talking about the influencer space, and she was giving me certain insights because she knows a lot of them and she engages with them. And she was telling me that we Nigerian creatives are even, we have so much potential. We have so much to offer. We can even get paid better, but just because we don't have the right structure. So it seems as if we're not even doing as great as they are, just because everything looks really bright on the outside. You know what I mean? Little things like you want to even go and shoot as a creative somewhere, they're chasing you out of the place because they're like, hey, you can't shoot here, or you can't shoot here, or policies are just being brought up from nowhere. Oh, you have to pay tax on this and you have to pay tax on that. So just pretty much looking at the creative space and saying, hey, okay, we want to set up something for us, whether you are in music, whether you're in film, whether you are in, whatever it is that you're doing, this is a safe place that you can come to, and we can help build your business and project us internationally, even within us.
Akintunde, one of our attendees watching is asking, are there guides in leveraging opportunities in the creative space?
Guides in leveraging, there are no set rules to it. You have to kind of figure it out. Like Kayla was saying, we're not in a structured environment where there are actual guides to follow. I think you just have to understand the ecosystem depending on what side of the creative industry that you are in. And once you understand that space, who are the players in that space, when you ask a bit of questions, you kind of figure it out. But there are no set down rules. Not really.
It's okay. If I can just quickly add, I think being part of communities and platforms is a very good way of you navigating the industry, knowing who to collaborate with, knowing who you want to work with. Sometimes we like to work in silos and work on your own, and you don't want no one to see what you're doing, and you just want to go out of nowhere, but you can actually find communities and platforms that can really help you and drive you to where you want to go. So, and then those are your guides, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Wale, I would ask, what role would you say the creative industry played during the COVID-19 pandemic worldwide?
Oh, it played a very, very active role. I mean, and we all saw it because we were all literally living off of the creativity that was coming out during that period, you know, from all the different challenges on TikTok and, you know, all the different amazing content that we were seeing everywhere. And I think that just goes to show you the strength of the creative, you know, industry, as it were, right? So it's beyond just, you know, a bunch of people that are just trying to be different and whatnot. We as creatives, we play a very strong role within the community because we have that power to pull people together, right? Because when you create something that is very engaging, like, you know, maybe even what the Ikorodu boys are doing or something like that, you have that ability to pull people together. And when you bring people together, whatever agenda or whatever you want to communicate to them, they're listening to you, right? So that is why we need to take what we do as creatives very, very seriously. So it's beyond just your personal agenda. You are contributing to society. So I think COVID was one of the, you know, big opportunities for us to see where the role we play in the world. And for now, it's the onus is for us to then take it to the next level. Don't just stop after, you know, this pandemic goes away. Think of what else you can do to bring, you know, people together. Yeah.
Anyone else have some insights? Maybe Jane, maybe?
Well, I think to add to that, I would say we saw like a lot of mask production. I think it really did open up like business opportunities for people. So you find that people started to explore other things. And I mean, that really sticks in my head because I remember very well how people were being very creative around masks and fashion and all of that. I feel like what this also did was open people's minds to things they could explore in that space. So I think that's something else I would like to add. And I know that there were also things like trainings. People now started to explore how to build themselves as creatives in whatever sector. So there were so many different trainings people had at that time, and were exploring. And I mean, there were virtual fairs. So there are things around all of that to just, you know, help grow and groom people in that space.
One of our attendees, Obioma Dominic, is asking if benchmarking is advisable in the creative space. Would anyone like to give some insights into that?
I would say, yeah, I would say absolutely. Like you need to always set a standard for yourself in whatever it is that you're doing. And this is not just in the creative space. So, but it's something you need to be very careful with, right? So don't set yourself up for failure, right? So you need to choose who or what it is you're benchmarking yourself against, right? So you're not going to start off as a startup and say, look, in 1 year, I want to be the next Apple or something like that, right? Be very, very, very intelligent in terms of how you set your benchmarks and be very realistic about it, because failure is something that really gets people down. So say to yourself, be very true and very, you know, transparent and say, look, these guys were able to achieve this in X amount of time. I really like how they did it. So I will try to do the same within that amount of period, right? So I think it's important, yeah.
Our session is about to end, so I'll just like to ask all our panel attendees, what parting advice would you give a young creative starting out in the industry? What would you want them to expect, and what would you want them to do in order to be able to succeed? I'm throwing this out to everyone so we can just start. I can see that you can start.
Okay. I could go first.
Okay, I think, yeah, like I said, you have to really, really be passionate. You have to understand where exactly in the media creative space you want to play in, and you have to really push and go for it. You'll get a lot of no's. You'll be misunderstood. They might not understand what you're doing. You'll get discouraged, but just keep pushing, and slowly but surely things will start to pick up. That's my advice.
Ioana?
Yeah, I would say develop a very strong work ethic and be consistent. Really, really be consistent. I can't emphasize that enough. You may not get the opportunity now, you may not get the phone call you're waiting for, but consistency will definitely take you a long, long way.
Kayla?
This is what I would like to say, because everyone is saying, pretty much very, very valuable points. I think it's important that, especially when you're starting out, your mental space is so important, because you're going to get the no's, you're going to get the, you can't do it, you're going to get a lot of that. You're going to also question yourself. You're going to question your creativity. You're going to question whether you're supposed to be in this space or not. So you have to get ready mentally. So like Wale said, read a lot, study the lives of many people who have succeeded in this space. Try to see how they all have failed. They all have tried to give up. They all have dropped off along the way and then came back sometimes. So this is very, very important. Your mental space is important. Make sure you're surrounding yourself around people that genuinely care about you and are ready to push you to where you want to go.
Wale?
I'll say two things. So first for me is focus, right? A lot of creatives, as creatives, we get distracted very quickly, right? You're doing one thing today, tomorrow you want to do another thing. Focus as much as you can, right? It's very hard, but try to do that. Second thing is invest in skills, right? Now we're in an age where AI can literally replace a lot of us creatives, right? So it's important for you to do your research and develop skills. Don't invest in empty, qualities and whatnot, right? Develop skills that are not easily replaceable. So those are the two things I would advise any young creative. Yeah.
And finally, Mary Jane?
Yes, to add to what everyone has said, I would say ask questions. There's really nobody that knows it all. There's so much to learn, and don't feel like you need to get it all done by yourself. If you have people you can refer to, ask questions. You never can tell what you can get from all of that. And then I would also say practice. Like I said earlier, like the old saying goes, practice makes perfect, right? So when you practice, it just becomes second nature. You have to practice. If you need to stand in front of a mirror and practice, you do that. If you need to grab a family member, if you're an artist, to do all you need to do, and then just to practice, do that. Practice, practice, practice. You can't really overemphasize that. And then I would also say grow strategic partnerships. I feel like we need each other. We need each other to grow each other. So if you find another creative who you think you can work with to do something really, really big, I feel like you should grow that partnership and explore it. So yeah, those are the things I would add.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for your insights and your knowledge and for sharing your knowledge with everyone. I'd like to say thank you on behalf of Jobberman. It was a really interesting and a really good panel, and I hope to see more of you guys in the media very, very soon. All right, take care. Thank you very much.
Nice to